Hello everyone and welcome back to the Lovely Digest. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you're new, hello, my name is Emily and this is the Lovely Digest, a platform where I talk about health and wellness and my experience with Crohn's disease. So today I feel like I wanted to talk about my Crohn's story and kind of what has happened since that first video that I put out, because it's just continuing to grow and more people are continuing to watch it, and a lot has happened since the events that took place in that first video. I have gone on medication, a lot of things have changed, and I also figured what better video to do than an updated Crohn's story, since I haven't been on here in a little while. And I just wanted to say thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for continuing to like and subscribe and ask questions, because I'm still here. Life just got a little crazy, as it always does, and I needed to get a new phone. I needed to have a new way of recording okay quality videos for you guys, and I felt a little funny about making videos that I wasn't super enthusiastic about anymore, which I know I've said a couple of times. So I'm hoping that now I have a new phone, I have a new computer, so I can actually edit videos and get them done in a reasonable amount of time rather than it taking an entire day on my old but trusty laptop. So without further ado, we shall dive right in. So the last time I spoke to you was a few years ago. I was not on medication. So I'm going to start from 2021, which is when I first went on medication in November of 2021. So that summer, I had to go back on antibiotics because I wasn't feeling very well. I could feel a lot of pain in my stomach in certain spots. For me specifically, I have one spot where my ileocecal valve is. That was very painful, so I ended up finding out that there's an ulcer in there, and there's an ulcer up in my transverse colon right in the middle, so right underneath my rib cage. That was very painful. And then also down on my lower left side, there was another one, and I had a lot of little ulcerations, but those were really big ulcers that were incredibly painful. And it was annoying because I went to go get a colonoscopy, and it had to get pushed off until September. And so I went in and I was much worse off than I thought I was going to be. And that was reflected in the amount of pain that had been building up over the summer. And so in September, I ended up getting hospitalized after a colonoscopy because they were worried that I might have perfed, which means that they could have torn my colon with the very gentle, very small scope. Just want to say that it's very rare for that to happen, and that actually didn't happen to me, but they put me on very strong antibiotics because they were worried that I got micro tear in my colon, which is very possible. So I went on an all liquid diet, was in the hospital for almost a week, and then they released me because I just said that I wanted to go home and that I was feeling better. I was eating solid food, so they let me go home, and I just rested at home. And then they started the process of getting me on Inflectra, which they were gonna put me on Remicade, but my insurance requested Inflectra, which is a biosimilar drug. It means that they are very similar. They're the same medication, just under different brand names. So Inflectra is Pfizer's brand name of Remicade, and I believe Remicade is just the generic version of it. It's also known as mouse juice, which is hilarious because I believe, and I hope that I'm remembering this correctly, that they use genes from mice to create this medication, and it was originally developed to treat cancer and didn't work as a chemotherapy drug, and so that's why it's also known as a chemotherapy drug, even though it's not used in chemotherapy. It's just used in infusion therapy for Crohn's, and I believe also ulcerative colitis, but I'm not sure. So they put me on that. I know that that's usually the first drug that doctors will try to introduce to patients because the other ones tend to be more expensive. So Remicade is usually the first plan of action. And luckily it has worked for me for the last year and continues to work for me. I will get into it more, but the only thing that I've started to develop is hives, and it's not confirmed whether or not the medication is causing that. But so I went on medication. It took about a month and a half for me to finish up the antibiotics, and then I had a period of time where I just had to wait until the medication was approved by my insurance. So that does take a long time, unfortunately, but I was feeling okay because they set me up on such high dose of antibiotics that it killed off all of the infection that was happening in my body, and I was able to eat well enough to get myself through until I could start the medication in November. So when I started that, I went to Brigham and Women's. I believe this is just standard protocol for everyone, but you go into the hospital and have your first 3 infusions there, just in case you were to have an allergic reaction to it, which I did not. It can cause like a mild reaction, so I take Claritin every single time before going and taking my infusion. So I just take it about 30 minutes before I get it in the IV, and I also take it with some Tylenol still. So I just did that in the hospital, and all went really well. So they moved me to an at-home infusion center nearby, and Option Care is where I get my infusions. I was approved for at-home infusions, so someone would come to my house and infuse me, which was amazing sounding. And then when I called the schedule, they said that they're such short-staffed that if I can walk and I'm able-bodied, I need to come into the office, which is fine. I get that. Hopefully someday I can have home infusions though, because that would be amazing. I could continue to like work and do stuff. However, in the beginning, they made me so tired and lethargic at first that I would just come home and nap. Like I would schedule an afternoon infusion, which would be about 3 hours, and then I would just come home and go to bed. But now they give me energy and I feel really good after them, so I can like do work and stuff during them. So yeah, they've been going really well. And then that winter, so I got started my infusions in November. That like February, I believe it was, of 2022, I developed anemia. And it was technically mild, but for me, I generally have very high red blood cell count and platelets. And so it was at the other end of the spectrum, and it was actually lower than normal. So I was approved for iron infusions. And I believe I talked about this in a previous video, but just to quickly recap, I had an allergic reaction to my first iron infusion. They switched me to another one, and I had very mild reaction where I felt very off after them, but they weren't causing me to go into anaphylactic shock like the other one did. So we stuck with it. I felt so much better like a few weeks after I finished all 5 infusions. So I had to drive up to Boston 5 times to get these. But I felt so much better after them, which by that time it was like beginning to be spring and summer. So I felt really good again. And then I ended up developing severe allergies. So when I got home after my first few infusions and I was doing well in the winter of 2021, we got a cat, Luna. And I've always had cats, so I've never been allergic to them. And then a few months after having Luna and a few months after the iron infusions and after going into anaphylactic shock, I developed severe allergies. And so I got an allergist, went through that whole process of going through another doctor and getting set up and seeing her, and then waiting a few weeks and going back up for a skin test and just that whole process. So that was literally just a few months ago, like almost a year later, and I got skin test, and the only thing that I majorly reacted to was cat dander. So I found out that I'm allergic to cats, which doesn't really surprise me because my mom is very sensitive. So I think usually maybe I was just sensitive and then getting used to the cat's dander. So unfortunately, Luna is also long-haired, so it just makes the allergies worse. I've heard some back and forth about like certain cats that help with allergies. Some are hypoallergenic, which I don't know if is true, but I think is really cool and hope is true. But we still have Luna. We're not getting rid of Luna. I just started taking Zysol every single day, which if you know me and have been here for a while, I try to be as minimal as possible with the medication. So going on Zysol didn't really thrill me, but I also wasn't going to get rid of my cat, and I also couldn't deal with, I've never had allergies this bad before. My eyes were red all the time. I looked really sick. I was so puffy. I couldn't stop sneezing and coughing. It was like I had a perpetual cold. It was so bad. So that cleared up with the allergy medication, and I thought I was going to be able to come off of it, and I did for a few weeks in the summer, because by this time it was like the end of summer, fall. And I came off of it and I started getting hives all over my body. And so I've now had hives for, I believe, about like 8 weeks. So I've been diagnosed with chronic urticaria? I'll put it on the screen. Chronic urticaria, I believe it is, which is just chronic hives. So I got tested to make sure that my thyroid's okay and everything's okay, and anything that usually would trigger hives that could be potentially dangerous is not, and it's not. I just have chronic hives. So we're not exactly sure where that's coming from. The only thing that I noticed is that they get worse before my infusion and then they get better after my infusion. So you'd think that if I was having a reaction to my infusion, the hives would come right after my infusion, because that's when it's most potent in your bloodstream and your body. But no, it gets better within 24 hours after having my infusion. And I've observed this twice. So I finally just emailed my allergist and said, what do you think about this? Because that's very strange. And I haven't heard anything back yet, but we will see. They have gotten a lot better. I haven't had any since doing 2 Zysol a day, which I was prescribed that. You're not supposed to do that. You're only supposed to take 1 allergy pill a day. So if you have hives, ask your doctor / your allergist before you do that. That was prescribed to me. And so I did that for a week over Christmas, and it wiped the hives out. And I also got an infusion on December 30th. That was my last one. And that helped a lot with the hives. So fingers crossed. I'm still taking Zysol because I learned that it's important, even if you don't have them and they go away, to keep taking it to make sure it's completely out of your system for about a month, and then you can come off of it. So I think I'm going to have to take them through the spring and like into summer. Because I also have mild like pollen allergies in trees that bloom in the spring. So I think I'm going to take it through the spring and not stop it, because I still have some itchy patches, but it's the winter. So it could just be dry patches at this point. Like they don't look like the hives, but they resemble them enough that I'm like, is this a dry patch or is it a hive? So long story short, I'm not going to stop the Zysol. I'm just going to keep taking it because the hives were awful. And I also reached out on Instagram and asked if anyone experienced this, and a lot of people messaged me, like a lot of people messaged me and said, I get hives, I have Crohn's, or I am on infusions, or whatever it is. Like they were also getting hives because they had Crohn's or whatever reason, and they didn't have an answer as to exactly what was causing it either. So I'm guessing it's something to do with the medication, but I'm not sure what. So to be determined. I'll share an update again about Crohn's in the future, and I'm sure I'll have an answer. So that is, up until now, things have been really good. So I don't have too much to report on other than the hives. And yeah, I just, if you're debating, whoa, can I talk? I've been talking for almost 15 minutes, so I'm running out of steam. But essentially what I was trying to say is I'm also a holistic health coach. And so I strongly believe in, if you have like mild gut problems or you're experiencing some bathroom issues, like to fix smaller, minor things first with food. But if you're someone like me with Crohn's and you're considering like whether or not to go on medication or like what to do, I strongly recommend that if you've been diagnosed with like Crohn's or something, go on the medication and then fix your diet, because your body's going to just have a hard time adapting to anything new unless you're in a stable position to do that from. So get yourself well and then go forward. If you're already here and you're doing pretty well, you're just having minor issues, then start with all natural. And then if you need more medication or anything supplemental, then add that on top of it. So that would be my non-professional, professional opinion as a certified health coach, and as someone with Crohn's. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a comment down the whoa. Please leave a comment down below with ideas on video topics, because I sit right here every single day and work. So I can't do like a come to work with me as I have Crohn's, or I mean, I could, I just don't know if that would be very interesting because I work at home. So let me know what you want to see, other things you want to see. Do you want to see like those trendy YouTube videos, or like what do I eat in a day and things like that? Or do you want more like vlogs? Or do you want more like chatty videos like this? I could do a Q&A. Let me know what you want down below. And if you want a Q&A, also ask me a question. And yeah, that's all I have to say right now. That's my update. Thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. I love YouTube and I'm so excited to get back into it and share more with you guys. You just have to give me some ideas. I need some inspiration.